Hi, everyone. It's Marcia Martin, the Heart Healer. Today, we're talking about healthy boundaries. This is not something I wanted to explore. I had a big mental block against healthy boundaries. And if you have the same problem, I'm so glad you're here with me today because, as always, they've shown us the purpose for establishing these boundaries and then maintaining them. And they've shown us what each one of the participants' roles is. So when we used to look at it and say, oh, I don't know, I think I should just keep helping. So-and-so needs me, even though I'm exhausted or I don't feel that, hold on while I put you guys on mute, I forgot. I don't feel that this is going to be beneficial for me. I feel an obligation to helping this other person. That's not a healthy boundary for you, and it's not healthy for the other person as much as you want to help them, as deeply as you want to make a difference in their life. They've got to agree. So let's take a look at what the guides say about healthy boundaries and then really dig into it. I want to hear what has happened for you. If you are still in a relationship that needs some clarification or some help, let's help each other. So they begin. Dearest hearts, there is nothing more important or more difficult for the sensitive, heart-centered person than the establishment and maintenance of healthy boundaries. This is primarily due to a lack of understanding. As I just said to you, I didn't understand. I thought it meant be something I'm not to protect myself. Many of you believe that a healthy boundary is imposed with force, sternness, and domination, and that the person on the receiving end will feel cut off, abandoned, hurt, or abused by your lack of attention to their problems. And you believe, erroneously, that being in service to others requires your constant and devoted attention to the well-being of those whom you have committed to serve. We ask you, what about you? Who's minding the shop? And why are you inviting freeloaders to take advantage of your energy? When you reply, out of the goodness of my heart, we know we found the problem, the dysfunction and the myth that is keeping you bound to an energetic pattern that's no longer serving you or them. Please, before we go forward, understand you are serving no one. So as big as your heart may be, as important as it may be to you to be of service, please stop letting people treat you in any way that feels good to them and doesn't feel good to you, especially if you were taught by either parental figures or a teacher or some sort of authority figure that a healthy boundary was imposed with cruelty, abuse, abandonment, hatred, prejudices. That is not a healthy person energetically. They cannot have or maintain healthy boundaries. So if you learned your behavior, which is to give too much, from a person who was domineering or cruel, and you said, oh, I don't want to do that, so I'll just go the opposite way, understand they're not right either. They don't have the emotional capability, unless they've matured, to do it any other way. So we don't want to copy or go opposite of the person who's doing the worst job of the behavior in the room. Let's find the person that's really appearing to feel good and get their life pulled together and imitate them. You don't ever want to copy because you're unique and you will need to express who you are uniquely. But let's find someone who looks happy and is really good about finding the best of everything and use them as our inspiration or our guide. So back to our blog. First, we'll explain the myth, then we'll help you learn to establish boundaries, and then we'll show you how to maintain those boundaries so that all participants in the relationship can establish healthy, growth-inducing habits. I love the fact that they are not just instructing us to get going, that they're actually understanding that a sensitive person who is heart-centered is going to have some difficulty with this issue if no one has been a good example in their life. So, beginning with the myth. The myth, you must feed others if you are to serve them, is a fallacy. When you're truly in service to the well-being of another, your goal is to create a relationship that supports growth. If you, as the primary caretaker, keep spoon-feeding the other person your positive energy, they will never learn to create their own, nor will they ever learn to take responsibility for the darkness they've created. They, if allowed, will blame you for the darkness, be angry with you for not taking it away, and stay firmly entrenched in their unempowered belief system as they loudly demand that you fix it. Now, I am so guilty of allowing people to do this to me throughout my life. And so I wasn't the one, I was certainly the one that was looking everywhere outside myself when I was in the darkness for a solution and wanting to blame everyone, including the kitchen sink. It didn't matter if you could possibly be at fault. I needed somebody to blame. Then as I grew out of that, I started taking on the Mrs. Fix-It role, and that was also extremely unhealthy. So that's kind of what I'm growing away from, which is, hey, I get it that this is really a tough situation. However, you created it. Let's look at it for what it is, and since you created it, you can undo it, and I'll help you undo it instead of I'll take the blame for you creating it. So they continue. For this reason, you must not allow yourself to become entangled in unhealthy relationships where you're seen as the provider and they're seen as the childish receiver. Childlike behavior is an open, trusting, curious relationship with the divine that is constantly seeking growth and improvement. This is what they want from us. Childlike openness. However, this is what they get. Childish behavior is demanding, small, helpless behavior that places all responsibility onto others. If you have ever, and I have been extremely guilty of this in the past, blamed God, you are being childish. If you've ever stomped your foot in frustration and said, God, why won't you answer my prayer? Or any version of that, you are being childish. Anyone engaging in childish behavior is not allowing themselves to grow, and enabling that behavior will bring no positive results for either party. No matter how many vows of service you have made, you are not serving if you're enabling anti-growth behavior. Now let's just think about the perfection of God, and when we are childlike, which is open and trusting, we notice that things work out pretty quickly. When we get petty and childish and angry and stupid, we shut the door on those blessings in our God relationship. Childlike, open and curious, that's where we're going. Childish, uh, tantrums, and taking no responsibility, that's what we're leaving behind. Now it's time to look at how to be a service provider and establish a healthy boundary. Everyone is in service. It doesn't matter your job, your gender, your station in life, or your income. Each one of you is here to serve another, but none of you are here to enable others to be childish and shirk responsibility. Drink that in for a minute. Everyone is in service. Everyone. Nobody is getting out of this life without serving some purpose. Allow them to serve their purpose. Do not encourage the childish behavior. Do not encourage the I'm not capable, I don't want responsibility behavior. Everybody came to do something. Encourage them to do it. True service providers stimulate and encourage growth. Those in false service encourage others to stay bound, play small, and assume no responsibility. Whether it is a family member, spouse, child, or person outside the family unit, your role is always to encourage others to evolve into the greatest version of themselves. I just want to go back for a minute and talk about false service. I am not calling anyone out, but we need to be very clear so that you can understand and recognize the signs. If someone says to you, you cannot do this without me, or I'm the only one that can interpret this correctly, or any kind of isolating behavior that is telling you I'm better than you are, or I'm the only one that can do this for you. That's a red flag. We are all connected with the divine. You can get every answer you possibly desire. Yes, it's more difficult on your own. We all have our own forests. It is so great to go talk to somebody that's impartial and can say, this is what I just heard you say. Or what you're describing sounds like you're thinking X, Y, Z, whatever. It's great to have an impartial person who is wise to bounce things off of. That's completely different than someone that says, without me, you'll never get there. It may be true that we could go through this entire life and without a good guide, we would make limited progress because it is such an incredible journey. So, yes, I encourage you to find a guide that speaks to your heart. However, anyone who says to you, without me you have no chance, that is a false prophet. That is somebody that's going to break you down and keep reminding you you're not big enough to understand this. And I'm here to tell you, you are bigger than you need to be. You will always be bigger than you need to be. The spiritual journey was never created to be on overnight. It's not take a sleeper train and get there the next day. It is an ongoing series of lessons. So it does require quite a bit from you. And my own personal journey took 30 years of learning from different teachers. Without them, I don't know that I would have gotten here. They gave me a start, and I'm still following very many thinkers because I have trees in my forest, and I need them to shake me up and say, hey, what are you doing with that thought? Why are you letting that gain roots? Why are you giving it so much of your energy? So those teachers, the ones that I am working with, And groups like this, where we are sharing, encourage you to see your own greatness. And that's a good teacher. Okay. So this means that you cannot do for others, that they must do for themselves, and that you must allow them to fall. All right, take a deep breath. Before you back away in horror, consider this truth. No one learns anything by watching someone else and then being prevented from trying it themselves. You learn through guided trial and error, not by sitting on the sidelines, refusing to participate. The childlike person, or the child, the true child, cannot wait to help. Every mother knows the story of before 5, can I help, can I help, can I help, can I help? Or maybe up till 7. Once they start really getting independence, nobody wants to help anymore. They got their own stuff to do. But it's so exciting when they're little and they want to help and learn everything. Then they get that independence and your stuff isn't quite as exciting. They got their own stuff. But that's okay. Therefore, you must set a good example. Live your truth. Don't just give lip service to your beliefs. Live them. You may show others why, how, and what to do, but you may not do it for them. Show them, teach them, encourage them, and then gently insist that they try to do it themselves. So be that wonderful role model. But if they've got to fall into the hole because they're refusing to look where they're going, you got to let them fall in that hole and trust that the divine is there and they will get it. There's a lot of trust involved in healthy boundaries. Therefore, healthy boundaries, when you're teaching, and all of you are teachers, would require you to expect questions, concerns, confusion, and frustration. It's all part of the process. Explain until it's clear. Anyone with young children, remember, they're always saying, why? Keep explaining. Let the light bulb come on in their eyes and then withdraw. Not completely, but far enough so the student, the one you're serving, will believe they're capable, but still feeling supported and cared for in case they should fall. It is the classic learning to ride a two-wheel bicycle. I still remember getting on the bike. I don't know why this is such a clear memory because, jeepers, it's been a while. Getting on that two-wheel bicycle on the grass in the front yard. I think it was my father that was the one holding on to the back. Now, I'm not clear on that, whether it was father or mother, but one of my parents was holding on to the back. And I was fine until I looked back. I have no idea how long ago they had let go of the rear of the bicycle. I'm assuming that I was on my own for not a long period of time, but certainly an extended couple of pedals there until I got the brilliant idea to turn around and make sure somebody was holding on. The minute I turned around to make sure they were holding on and nobody was there, they were quite a ways back so I could see the progress that I made. But instead of celebrating my progress, I immediately got afraid that I hadn't accomplished anything and I couldn't do anything more, and so I fell off. Isn't that what we're constantly doing? As long as we think, oh, goody, somebody's here to help me, we're fine. But if our teachers are not strong enough in themselves to say, okay, now, Mary, time for me to, well, they don't even have to say that because nobody announced to me, I'm taking my hand off the back of the bicycle now. The teacher needs to say, hey, you got this, and build you up and really Mary, this is so great. Let me see you do it. And just not say anything, but withdraw a little bit so that Mary is left looking at this puzzle that has to be solved, this thing that she wants to achieve. And she believes that she can do it. And even if she comes back and it happens to be wrong, or she has fallen off the bicycle, give Mary the opportunity to fall. You build your confidence by falling and looking at what you did, how much you did accomplish. And also you build your confidence by falling and saying, okay, well, now that I fell, I realize it's not that bad, so I can get up and try again. If you never fall, you will always believe the fall is going to be worse than it is. Once you've fallen and you've dusted yourself off, then you realize, oh, that's all there is to it? Oh, gosh, I can do this again. And this time I'm going to get it right. So, as the teacher, while you withdraw your energy, you must go into recharge mode. Realize that you are constantly putting out energy. And if you do not take time to recharge, to be there with yourself, to do the quiet meditation, you again are not maintaining that healthy boundary and not serving as you should. Recharge mode is the I'm here, but I have to do this work on myself so I can be there for you again if you need me mode. Send a clear message. No wishy-washy. I'm always here for you, no matter if I'm on my deathbed. No, it's okay to say, you're important, but I'm also important. I'm wise, and I know you can do this without me, and you'll go further independently than you will if you're constantly relying on me. Be firm in your energetic statement. Do not run back to help at the first whimper. Babies are allowed to cry in their cribs. Often they will console themselves if you don't run in there and pick them up after they let them really work into a problem. But let them learn to play with the toys in the crib and look around and entertain themselves. We do not have to be there holding everyone's hand, and we cannot if we expect them to progress. Allow them the opportunity to explore on their own as you use the time away to replenish and grow in your own life journey. Remember, if you coddle, protect, and shelter, you're creating dependency. And the dependent, I think they wrote this one just for me, the dependent will feel justified in taking every last drop of your energy. If you are exhausted, you must look at what you're doing with your energy. Be self-loving and teach self-love by requiring personal time and demanding that the time be respected. At the same time, encourage those you serve to take personal growth time and explore their talents without your guidance. Remember, we are all in service to each other. This means that family members need to understand I must have quiet recharge time, or however you want to recharge. And they must be able to function on their own for that period of time. If your children are very small, make your recharge time when they are napping, because they cannot really function without you. But get recharge time in there. To maintain these boundaries, you must set clear intentions in the beginning. I love you. I believe in you. And you must spend time developing yourself as you extend me the same courtesy. It's not a one-way street. I love you and I believe in you. Now, if you want me to continue to be in your life, you must also love and believe me. Otherwise, it's okay for me to put some distance between us. So that sets a good precedent, but you must not allow that boundary to be trampled by either side. No, I didn't mean it. When they come knocking on the door, when you say, I need 15 minutes. Oh, but this is so important. I'll be with you in 15 minutes. Unless the house is burning down, they can wait 15, 30, 60 minutes, whatever you need. Got to teach other people, I am as important as you are. Love does not mean I give you everything and expect nothing. Love says, I help you discover and strengthen your wings so you can fly off to pursue those goals that are most life-affirming for you. Now, if you are going to support someone else in their goals, then how beautiful that they should do the same for you. It should not be, hey, let me do everything I want and we'll just forget about you. That's not a loving relationship. I don't care if you are the mother or the father. That is not a loving relationship. You can love your children and want every good thing for them, and you can still have things for yourself. And your children can be excited to see you receiving things for yourself, just as they are excited for themselves to be receiving. If you're trying to hold people to you, and I went through this very quickly, I want to expand on this a minute. And this is pretty much parents. Take a breath and ask yourself, am I trying to hold my children to me? Is it really important to me that they don't go far geographically? Are you telling yourself things like, oh, I hope they don't go far in life, even though you're hiding it under things like, oh, I hope they don't go far geographically because I'll be lonely? You got to examine your fear of being alone. If you're concerned or you're not encouraging your children to be the best they can be, you must examine your fear of being alone. You will never be alone. God will always send you someone wonderful once you've worked through the fear. Please don't tie your children to you or spouses or anyone else that should be growing beside you. Partners, whomever. If you're insisting that the others remain small, examine your limiting belief that you're not powerful. There are some people in our lives that may say things like, oh, I'm so much better, or I know so much more, or try to be very aggrandizing of themselves and very less than honoring of all that you may have achieved. Examine the self-talk that you may be engaging in that says you're not powerful. A healthy boundary says, you're important, but so am I. A healthy boundary represents mutual respect. A healthy boundary says, I'm here to assist you, but I cannot do it for you. I'm here to teach you, but you must be a willing student. I'm here to guide you, but you must develop a personal relationship with your own guidance system, the divine, because you cannot rely on mine forever. And lastly, a healthy boundary always says, I want you to grow as I want myself to grow. It cannot and should not ever say, I'll do it for you. I'm always available, or you may remain dependent. Not allowed. Even when you don't know that's what you're saying. Many times we love our children, spouses, partners, whomever, family members so much that we feel that we should say, I can demonstrate that love by doing it for you. They don't want it, no matter how much they say they do. Everyone prefers to have the skills to do it on by themselves. And everyone feels better when they are accomplished, when they've done something they can be proud of. Good boundaries inspire freedom and growth for yourself and others. Please get a hold of this. It's been a real eye-opener for me, and I'm going to go over this whole program. But first, any questions? Or maybe I should, you know what? I'll just go over our notes first, then I'll ask for questions because I may have hit on all of the points that you're concerned about, and I'd much rather hear your stories, even if they're horror stories, of how you got yourself into a situation that did not honor your boundaries, or if you don't even know how to begin establishing boundaries. So remember, we want to be the curious explorer. Hold on. Got it. A healthy boundary is not being a stern taskmaster. For all of you who may have had teachers or parents in that role, they were mistaken. It's okay not to copy that example. They don't have to be expert disciplinarians or rigid. Anyone who's really rigid, try not to use them as their role model. Remember, the divine wants us to flow so that we can easily react to situations and circumstances that are changing. A rigid person breaks. So, if a tree is in the winter, is first coated with ice because it's gotten so cold out, let's say it's sleeting, and then there's a strong wind, many of those branches are going to break off because the tree will have lost its ability to flow. Now, if it's the same tree in the spring, it may have leaves starting to come out, or summer, and that same strong breeze starts blowing. But it will not bother the tree at all because it is in flow mode. It is not brittle due to artificial circumstances. So think of the tree when you feel yourself sometimes getting rigid and perhaps becoming brittle. Sorry, I'm so stuffy today, guys. We like to imagine we can draw lines in the sand and never cross them. That's such a, I'm going to draw this line in the sand. Every time someone says that to me, I think, and 1, 2, because I know that's just a couple of seconds before we're going to find the difficulty with that particular stance. Rigid is never going to work. Life is fluid. Things will change. Care may need to be extended to someone who you said, I will never help them again. I'll tell you a story about my son in just a minute that he would never have foreseen, nor would I. But it was really important that we didn't have rigid boundaries with each other because of this incident happening. You can maintain a healthy boundary and offer more help when needed. That was what we were able to do. Still respectful, still expecting to be independent whenever you can, but recognizing in this particular instance, help is needed. Healthy boundaries are respectful. They're never going to be rigid. They're going to be, they could look like wavy lines. They may not stay very long. When we're rigid, brittle, when we're rigid, we become brittle. Brittle breaks. So remember the sapling, the tree in the spring is the tree that we want to be. Also, looking at trees, stay rooted, grounded in your belief system, sure of what you believe in, at the same time that you reach out to see, oh, perhaps there's another way I need to look at this. I'll be open to other ideas. However, I'm going to stay grounded or rooted in what feels good to me. But I will send out shoots to gather information. So you don't want to say, okay, well, I really have a strong center and foundation right here. But, oh, you need me over there? That's okay. Let me just uproot my entire life and zip on over to you because you're so much more important than I am. If they cannot come to you and you don't feel comfortable going to them, you help as much as you can from where you are, but you can honor them and still maintain that healthy boundary of saying, but I am important too. You are important, but I am important too. The goodness of your heart does not mean you're responsible for other people's choices. We have to trust the divine and allow others, to face the consequences of their choices. If they ask advice, you can help give it to them if it doesn't hurt you or put you in jeopardy. However, overextending yourself isn't loving, and that's not asking for advice. When they say, will you do this for me? They're not asking, what do you think? How should I handle this? They're just saying, will you do it for me? Then it becomes overextending. And part of it is on you because you're not practicing self-love. Part of it is on them. They're not growing from the experience. So let's look at the balance that we want to keep. And then when we adopt the I know better attitude, so I have to do it for them, okay, we're really in trouble. Because energetically we're saying to the other person, and they are hearing this, even though you're not saying it and you think you've covered it up really well, you didn't. They're getting it. You're saying, you're too stupid, other person, incapable, unworthy. I have to do this for you. Now, not only have you created a dependency, but you've completely annihilated their self-confidence. And so it's like a double whammy to the person. You think, oh, I'm just being loving. I'm going to do this for them because I can see that I'm really better at this. No, let them try and fail. They may become better than you. Perhaps they'll only become adequate. Who cares? At least you have not created a negative dependency. We want to strive for loving independence. Provide the help necessary as you build others up so they believe in themselves. A person who believes in themselves will naturally expand. You don't have to push a motivated person. Let's help others become motivated by encouraging, building, teaching, inspiring those that we're serving. Because childlike is trusting and curious and wanting to help. Childish is demanding, selfish, blaming, playing it small, and that person cannot be helped. They may say they want help, but they're really saying they want you to do it for them, and you're both going to be miserable if you do that. So, because you could give everything, but it won't help until they assume responsibility for what they've created. You could give them your house and say, just take it, it's okay. I can get another one. Until they take responsibility for losing wherever they were living previously, until they understand that they had some part in it, they would just manage to lose your house. And so nobody would be served. Both parties would be injured. A healthy boundary with someone childish: I can't help you at this time. So somebody is having a pity party, blaming you, blaming someone else, refusing to take any responsibility. You're not going to win an argument with this person. So the best answer: I'm sorry, I can't help you at this time. Walk away. You're not going to win. It's not going to happen. You're better off walking away and letting the person work through it on their own, and perhaps adopting a more mature attitude. Service can only be for those who want to grow from what you offer. Trust that someone will be there to help them when they're ready. No one is left saying, I'm ready for help, and being sincere about it, and being told, oh, sorry, everyone's busy. There is always someone available to help you when you're ready. And remember, falling isn't failing. It's also not the end, and it's not the worst thing that can happen. It is merely an opportunity to grow. One quick look at false service is encouraging people to believe you know better and that they have nothing to offer. So remember, everyone can do it on their own. There is no superstar person that's better than another person that has information that you can't get. Doesn't mean that you won't take you a long time. And you may want a shortcut with this person that's discovered the information, as long as they're not telling you, I'm the only way you will receive this information because I'm more special than you are. God chose me kind of talk. They would have an ego-bound attitude that says, I'm superior and I need to be needed. So, if you need to be needed, you need to examine your relationship with yourself and increase the self-love. Oftentimes, those of us in service who are heart-centered do need to be needed. We don't necessarily have the ego component, but it feels so good to be needed that we can easily get drawn into unhealthy relationships that are draining. So I want you to take a step back and just say to yourself, am I loving myself enough? And you'll find the answer very clearly. So then you might want to change the statement from I need or desire for others to grow from their interactions from me. So instead of I need to be needed, I'm very needy, I'm very dependent on having others come to me, a more life-affirming statement for you and for them would be, I need or desire others to grow from their interactions with me. That puts you firmly in the role of service-providing teacher. You have valuable information that you want to share, and it is your desire that others would grow from the interaction that they have from you. And you would as well. So remember to, hands off, show others and encourage them. However, do not, I'll do it for you. You can say, and this was, when I was beginning my career as a teacher, I was in the elementary school classroom, and for some of those years it was kindergarten. And always I would say to those kids, I'll do it with you. I knew it would be exhausting for them to put back all of the blocks, and it would take far too long. We wouldn't get anything else done. So I would always say, come on, I'll do it with you. But I insisted that they do part of the work, or they do their share of the work. So, not I'll do it for you, but I'll do it with you until you're able to do it for yourself. Let's take those same children that were 5 at the time playing with blocks, and let's now put them in 3rd grade, where they're probably 8, maybe some of them 9, and they're out on the playground, and they've brought out a whole bunch of equipment to recess. Now, if I am still saying to them, oh, I don't think you're capable of picking all of this up, I'll help you, I am really treating them like babies, unless it's some incredibly, some game that has a whole bunch of pieces to it, and it would take an excessively long time if there were not a lot of people helping to pick up the pieces. These kids can pick up their basketballs, their cones, their jump ropes, their whatever else they brought out, and bring it into the classroom without your assistance. You might have to remind them, hey, go pick up this stuff you brought out. If you want to use it again, that's part of your responsibility. But don't let them all go back into the classroom and you stay out there sweating in the sun picking up their equipment. No, it's responsibility. Take responsibility for where you are and ask others to take responsibility for where they are as well. So this is a crazy example, but I want to kind of point out what's happening in our culture. Was it like 10 years ago, maybe more, 15 years ago, somebody in the cleaning industry decided to introduce hand sanitizers. My kids were still in school, and so every year hand sanitizer was on the list. And and on the playground there would be mothers with hand sanitizer. And then, of course, we got a group of people who became obsessed with hand sanitizing. And what happened to our health? Well, of course, the people who created this product told us we'll all be so much healthier because we won't have these germs on our hands if we're out for a picnic or out somewhere, and we can always have clean, germ-free hands. People became dependent on the hand sanitizer. What happened to their health? The more they became dependent on the hand sanitizer and believed that you can't do it without me, the less able their body was to fight off infection. The body is designed to fight regularly, on a regular basis, with a certain amount of germs. It's like staying in shape for the body. And when it has regular interaction with germs, it knows to kill them and remove them from the body so that you do not get sick. Overuse of hand sanitizer was making people dependent, and then their body couldn't do its job. So, don't allow people to become so dependent on you, or allow yourself to become so dependent on another person that you forget that you are brilliant. Ask for help when you need it. That is an excellent thing. Be an enthusiastic learner, but understand your own brilliance and that you have something special that only you can bring to the table. Just think about me on the bicycle. I was doing fine until I decided to look back and make sure that my dependency was still available. When it wasn't, I crashed because I didn't have enough confidence in myself to ride that bicycle on my own. Well, of course, my parents continued to help me. I practiced with my friends and I grew that confidence. But what if they had told me, "Oh, you fell over. Oh, honey, let's put your training wheels back on." I would never have learned how to balance, and that would have been a huge disservice to me. They didn't say it. None of the kids in my neighborhood had that told to them. And we all walked around with scraped knees and big old scabs. And we all learned how to balance. So that was something that I want you to remember when you are pushing your children, your people in your area. As long as you're pushing them towards something you know they can achieve, keep doing it. Let them fall. If you're saying to a 5-year-old child who is not a math prodigy, you must learn calculus by the end of the summer, you're setting an unreasonable, damaging expectation. So be reasonable, but get excited about their progress with them and encourage them to keep going. So now let me tell you something that happened with my son, who was fully independent for many years, had no intention of moving back home. He now happens to live with me, but he was fully independent. He actually came out here before I did and got himself established in a job, and then became horribly ill, experimenting with, and I'm still glad that he did this. He took a big fall, but he has learned an incredible amount of information about his body and has a tremendous respect for his body because of it. I think he decided to try a vegan diet. I'm not sure. Honestly, I can't remember. Well, there's nothing wrong with that diet unless your body can't digest the foods that you're eating. So some people do very well on alternative diets. Other people don't do well at all. Well, by the time that he realized what was happening, because he was already young and strong, it took him quite a while to tune into the fact that he was having a problem, that he was really not okay. And about the same time, and he still was not wanting to come home. He didn't want to take any action for this. I think he modified the diet slightly, but not much. No doctor visit, nothing to check out why he was in increasing pain every day. I mean, to the point that he was having difficulty showing up at work because of the pain. But still, we didn't find a doctor or do anything about it. Just, I'm going to just keep on. Right about that time, my mother passed away, and we all had to go to the funeral. And so he came home and decided to stay for a couple of days before the funeral, so that we all wanted to, of course, leave from the same place. So he came home a couple of days early, and at that point he looked at me and he said, "I really don't want to go back to where I live. I'm actually having quite a difficult time with my stomach. I'm having some real issues, and I'm in a lot of pain all of the time, and I lost my job." Didn't even tell me he had lost his job. I don't remember whether he was quit or fired. It doesn't matter, but I think he was fired, actually, because he would have to call out so often. So, of course, my reaction was, well, of course you can stay here, but what are you doing for your stomach? Oh, nothing. Nothing. Okay, so by this point, I think there's one day and we have to fly to the East Coast. So we obviously didn't see a doctor before then. So after we came back, he goes to see a doctor and gets the diagnosis. He has given himself an ulcer. Now, I didn't understand ulcers. There is a parasite called H. pylori that is very common, and I think it grows naturally in all of our intestinal tracts. However, if there is an infection, if an infection starts in the intestinal tract and gets out of control, the H. pylori multiplies, and at the point where the stomach flap goes up to, is opened for things to go into the large intestine, the H. pylori can flow into the stomach and will begin eating away the stomach lining. So he could not digest the diet that he was on. It created undigested food that then decayed in the intestine and got stuck, which allowed a whole H. pylori outbreak. And once there was enough H. pylori, of course he had pain in his intestines, and then they started crawling up into the stomach, and when the stomach flap opened, in they go to the stomach and begin attacking the stomach lining. So there were days when he could barely get out of bed. That's how much the pain had increased. And so here we go with a child who's no longer a child, young adult, who has been fully independent and suddenly finds themselves in a position where they can barely get out of bed while we are waiting for this ulcer and the infection to heal from we went to a naturopath, which I highly recommend. Well, we used all of these remedies that were non-invasive, very infection invasive. They did an incredible job of clearing the infection, but they were not hard on the physical body. Which traditional antibiotics would have really increased the pain. They would have gotten rid of the infection, that is true, but the pain that he was already feeling would have been magnified, and it was already off the charts. So in that particular case, we had to change our boundary. He could no longer care for himself for that period of time. And it took us almost a year to get him functional. During that year, as he was starting to feel better, he of course had lost all of his any work that he had been doing. He started putting out feelers for different jobs because he maintained the understanding that you need to provide for yourself at some point, or you can stay here and help out with the household, but you're an adult. So whatever works best for you, either total independence or staying here and helping out, you'll still have your independent life to be you, but you will contribute to the household, this household, as opposed to a roommate or whatever situation that you get. And that means that you're going to have to do some sort of work. And he went back to work even when he was not feeling 100%. It was a very long healing journey. In this particular case, we discovered that the acid blockers that they had him on were actually causing him more difficulty. So it was like a year and a half of healing, of learning, growing, healing, letting go of old beliefs and different things, and growing as a family, understanding, okay, as you're better, you will be expected to contribute. But while you're not, just contribute what you can personally. On a good day, help out more. On a bad day, we get it. So in that way, it was me and he also saying, I love you. I am important, but you are also important. Neither one of us played the card, oh, only me. If he had tried to do that and I had allowed him to do that, it would have been very unhealthy for us. So that was one particular place in which I really got it right. I was able to say, I get it. You're hurting now. But as you heal, take on more responsibility. All righty. Our hour is up. So before we go, any questions or concerns? Anybody have a question about establishing a healthy boundary? Great. Well, thank you all. I appreciate so much you being here. Remember, we don't want to be the overprotective mother. We want to be, or father, we want to be the you can do it parent. And when I say parent, I mean for all of our situations. Teacher. Maybe I should say teacher. That would be better because we're all teachers. We're all in service. So, questions or concerns? Send me an email, Marcia, M-A-R-C-I-A, at marciamartinthehearthealer.com. Once again, it's Marcia Martin, thehearthealer.com. I'm sorry for the stuffy nose. I'm getting a good immune system built up here. So, until next Wednesday, sending my love to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. And you can find this call and others on Marcia Martin, the Heart Healer, on YouTube.